Hello, Nilo here, and welcome back to Project Rebuilding the Man. I hope you are enjoying and finding value in the content being provided to you here on YouTube. We are continuing along our journey of becoming unstuck for the man who is rebuilding his life. This is a second part of the four-part series of becoming unstuck in your life and rebuilding the life you've always wanted. In the previous video, we touched on beliefs and values. These were foundational in terms of rebuilding your life and rethinking about the script that shows you the role that you are currently playing in life. And we also talked about how to flip that script and rethink how you change those behaviors by realigning and reevaluating the beliefs and values you have in order to bring lasting change in your life. Getting your mind right was key and is key, and I'll put a link at the end of the video if you didn't check that video out. But next up, now that we've put some time into rediscovering and realigning your beliefs and values, let's dive into how to set the right goals. That'd be number one. Backed up by the right systems, number two. And number three, having a reflection exercise. So the theme for Project Rebuilding the Man is that we work in the forge. It is a brotherhood of shared experiences, and the symbol of heat, pressure, time, and the right materials. We burn away the impurities of ourselves and craft something more pure that we need to find and fulfill our own purpose to bring about a stronger and more intentional you. The forge here is hot, so let's dive in as we always do and understand goals, systems, and the process of reflecting, which is our next foundational topic that is set upon beliefs and values in order to get unstuck in life. Getting unstuck will require you to make the goals of improving you more important than anything else, because everything else relies on you becoming the best version of yourself. If you have goals already established, please share them in the comment section of this video to help inspire other men who are also working on themselves. I appreciate it, and I'm sure others will also in our community. Now, as we did in the other video, we're going to head over to the whiteboard and gameplay this out. Let's look at our lives like an athlete training in a position to win a game, to build on our skills, exploit the talents, and figure out what the gaps are so that we can strengthen them and then set it up for success, which is really you in this game of life. So I'll see you there at the whiteboard. All right, guys, we're back at the whiteboard. It is coach time. We're going to take a look at how we're going to break down these plays. And these are actually our goals. Our goals, these are the top 10 recommended goals I put down that I've brought into my life. They have helped me immensely. I'll go through them one at a time for you to kind of unpack them a little bit more and how it could be meaningful in your life and to apply them, but also to tell you a little bit more about where I struggle with some of these goals and continue to apply myself every single day to work towards them. The first one we're going to talk about is emotional self-awareness. There's a lot of power in having achieved this goal, the first one right up here. It continues to refine itself as you get older, but it should be on the top of your list. It is really, self-awareness is really around understanding not only how certain things make you feel, but the influence that you have on others and in other situations with how you would make them feel based on your actions or your inactions. And again, a lot of times where we're starting from, sometimes people don't train you on these things. It's just a life skill that you learn. But the more that you make this an integral focus on your life, the more you'll be able to have an ability to read the room. And also, not only will you be able to read situations around you with a clearer vision, but you will be able to see how it impacts how you feel. And then the idea here is to shift it from an automatic response into one that you can control. The next part of this goal is understanding your emotions, and that once those are refined, they'll help you navigate life's changes. So then that way you're not at the whim of your emotions. That emotional self-awareness being key is that you can say, this is if it makes you angry, if it makes you mad, if it makes you upset, if it makes you happy, if it makes you blissful, gratefulness. All of those things are certain triggers that makes you have a certain emotional response. And the more that you can fine tune and create that self-awareness, the more, let's say, control you'll have over situations that where you would probably be angry or upset, you would bring more calm and peace to that situation. So let's kind of like give an example here. Have you ever played poker or a game of chance against others? It's kind of like reading what's going on around you and how you're feeling and interacting in that gathering or environment. Whether or not you think you are going to win or lose, you don't necessarily show it, right? There's an advantage for you to keep those emotions and what you show or what you reveal private. Now, it helps you remain calm and make clearer decisions based on what happens next. Now, the better you are at it, the better you will play the game. No difference in life. Now, the opposite of emotional self-awareness is really avoiding or burying emotions. It really denies yourself the opportunity to know and reflect on those emotions and also control them with practice. So don't ignore this, guys. Definitely spend time here developing this goal and practice its skill. Second, establishing stable routines. It's very important here. You know, as we talked about in previous videos, let your routines create a sense of stability when life feels uncertain. There's power here, especially when you feel less stable. Knowing you have a routine to rely on that is helping you to rebuild and become stronger, you can rest on that to keep yourself busy and focused until another opportunity comes along. So that way you're not just sitting there wondering what to do next. So for example, you know, after a major life event, you know, a morning walk or a consistent bedtime routine can anchor you in a simple sense. For me, hitting the gym is work, but something that you can visibly see. And it builds and it gives you encouragement to keep you going. We are creatures of habit. So build the ones that build you, you know, and then you can be proud as you walk anywhere knowing that the man behind all the scenes is taking care of himself and then can take care of the important people around him. Okay? So routines. Now, the opposite side of that is being overwhelmed and not having motivation can also stack in your life. It'll be the negative forces that actually goes on. And that really can take you away from your routines. Fight the temptation to rely on excuses to why you cannot do something for you. It is hard in the beginning until you get used to your vices of quitting something. You almost have to be your own boot camp sergeant to keep yourself motivated. It seems strange, but look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself what you need to do. Okay, so next up is also another important one, which I keep practicing at and trying to get better at every single year: financial autonomy. And we all know that money makes the world go round, right, guys? Now, there's no changing that rule. But becoming more independent on how that money is earned and how that money earns on itself is important to build a plan where you become not only independent so that you can provide for yourself, but be financially independent over time. And that creates a level of freedom for you to choose how you want to live. Meaning, less dependency on others builds more control for you. Now, granted, you know, money doesn't just happen overnight. It takes time to build. It takes time to think differently. It takes time to think about all the possibilities that are meaningful for you. And, you know, it's easy to see a lot of folks out there that are rich and successful and say, why not you? But it all takes hard work. Nobody's giving any handouts. So just try and think about longer term. What does financial autonomy look like for you? How do you want to live? What kind of control do you want to have over your finances? Trust me, the winning the lottery strategy is not working out for me. And for most people, it's not working out for. So you're going to have to work hard at it and think about how you're going to become more financially independent over time. Now, what this could mean is that doing some things that you're not comfortable with, or you may not even know how to do. Go and educate yourself, and you'll figure out your true power to achieve anything once you've tried and stuck with it. Now, one saying I heard a while ago is that there are 3 ways of making money. There's people at work, so that's essentially trading your time for money. There's leveraging people at work, meaning getting people to work and do things for you, such as owning your own business, or, which is a really big one for me, which is what I'm trying to move towards into, is putting your money to work for you. And that is really independent of your time. So most of us are in a place where we trade our time for money. Yes, that may be the place for where we have to start. Even if you fail, you will learn and get better. We'll actually have a whole video on this topic, I promise you, and I'll bring on a few experts in this area, men who have built businesses and assets that fuel their life. Now, the big thing to deal with on all of this is just really about the fear of changing and really doing something new. It's okay to take risks, but make sure that they're calculated risks. As long as you're learning and trying out certain things that work for you, that prove to work. Be patient and have a plan to learn something new each month or quarter or year that pays you back in some way. Okay, next up, the 4th goal is around personal values alignment. Now, we talked about beliefs and values in the last video, and I'll put a link on there. But simply put, living by your values brings purpose. Now, let's give an example. If honesty is key to you in terms of a value, then communicating openly with your family, friends, and children, even like an example of post-divorce, it builds trust. Even through any sort of pain or suffering you may have gone through. This takes courage, and then it builds confidence. But I want you guys to know something really important here. And when you think about your values and how important it is that you live by them, in this particular example, when we talked about honesty as a value, it does not necessarily mean that you got to tell everyone everything. Be smart about this one, guys. It's what you keep what's important to you as to not broadcast your purpose, your mission, and your goal. So that balance the intent of the value and how you live, not just what you say. In other words, it means that you are living a life that you are proud of your actions. And that if you were ever asked, there would really be nothing to hide. All right, guys, number 5, I combine 5 and 6 together. It's really about physical and well-being, which builds confidence. Now, it's important to call this goal out separately from routines. You only have one body in this life. There's no guarantees how long, but maximize your chances by taking care of your body. That helps you rebuild. As you age, your body will fail you, so try and do your best to set your future self up for success as much as you can. That is through daily routines that you can accomplish. Start now, because you can't afford later on to see what will happen if you didn't start today. Take this one very seriously. Nothing is guaranteed other than what you choose to work on today. Another example is that after a relationship ends, mastering a new hobby or a skill, it boosts your sense of competence. The more your self-confidence builds, you will walk and carry yourself in the world where you don't need external validation from people. You will be able to do this for yourself. So don't minimize this goal. It pays off big, where after a while, people will become attracted to who you are becoming. And from there, your power will start to shift things. The next one, number 7 here, is just establishing meaningful connections. You know, what this means simply is fostering connections helps to promote healing. You don't need a lot, just one or a few people, maybe men, that are strong and independent, that can inspire you, relate, and maybe you can work together to push you forward. I can personally tell you that this is huge. If you want to hold yourself accountable, it is possible, but it helps the more that you are working with other people to hold you accountable. So for example, joining a support group of men who have gone through divorce can remind you that you're not alone. Whether you belong to a church or a religious organization, maybe a close friend or family member you trust, and if you don't have anyone, get a coach. Look me up on Project Rebuilding the Man, and I'll help you. Book some time for us, and we'll come up with a plan, and I'll follow up on your actions in that coaching plan. Either way, you have options. Always know that you have options. You just have to choose to do it. All right, guys, the next goal here is forgiveness, and this one is a hard one sometimes. Depending on where you're coming from and what you went through in life, forgiveness can be a hard thing. And I'm sure you've probably heard a lot of people say that forgiveness is for you, not for the other person. Either way, it can be hard. So let's kind of unpack this one a little bit more. Is that the truth behind forgiveness is that it frees you to move forward. Getting to this place of forgiveness is easier for the small things, but for the big things and for people who have hurt you deeply, it's not so easy. In fact, sometimes it feels impossible. And because forgiveness is not a straight line, it comes, it goes, it can linger, but the struggle is real in forgiveness. As you tackle more of your own rebuilding goals, letting go of the pain will lead you to healing, which will eventually realize that forgiveness is more for you than anyone else. It does not mean that you forget what they've done. It just means that you choose not to be controlled by it anymore, because your new life has no space for it. It is the struggle to understand how forgiveness can actually happen in order for you to let go of this pain. In order to make room for the new, you gotta have to forgive and let go. I'll give you an example from my own forgiveness journey. For me, it happened in pieces and not at all once. I had to really learn from the lessons that they directly or indirectly had taught me. And what I realized is that I had to shift the way that I thought away from blame to gratitude. Although some people may have hurt me deeply, or whether it was intentionally so or not, I realized that there was lessons to be learned, and that in that way, I started to have a sense of gratitude over the people that were in my life and perhaps no longer in my life, but they taught me lessons. And because those lessons helped me become a better person for what I was going to either allow or no longer allow in my life via like a boundary, it allowed me to forgive and to move forward with peace. And, it's not as easy as it sounds, but it takes practice. But I tell you, it definitely can resolve a lot of bitterness, and bitterness only holds you back. The ninth one is right around purposeful growth. It's that growth that brings new meaning. Do something new and put yourself out there. Try new things to show that what you're capable of, and to see that you can basically do anything, even for others eventually. So for example, one thing I've done is volunteering. Exploring a long lost interest, or, especially post-divorce, can spark a renewed sense of purpose and perhaps make some meaningful connections with others who have gone through what you have gone through. So volunteering your time really helps in a very humbling way. You could even start dating again. You can make new friends. You can join activities. You have a lot of opportunities in front of you. You just have to push yourself and say yes, and that you will see what you're truly capable of. Even if, and don't worry about failure or being rejected. That might happen, that will happen. Accept that all lessons are going to happen to you and for you, okay? Be okay with failure and rejection, because that's the price you pay for success, and great relationships that could potentially last a lifetime. All right, let's move on to this last one here. Giving back, volunteering, as we talked about. It is that time where that really giving back helps reinforce your growth. It is a healing that comes from coming full circle. Your pain, your suffering can turn into lessons for someone else to help them ease their own pain and suffering and moves them along in their journey. It is a blessing for you to create this for another. You will discover a new side of yourself, a new and stronger, compassionate side, and it will not only give you some peace, it will bring to surface a person that you will be amazed with. A new power inside of you to do the things to take your life to the next level. A light that will now start to shine more brightly because you are that purpose. You now became activated to becoming something inspirational. That's why I ended up here, mentoring other people, helping them going through life challenges. It helps to deepen my own sense of purpose and ultimately fulfillment. All right, guys, so that's it for the top 10 goals. We're going to jump into the next section of this video around the systems, and then we're going to cap up with reflection. All right, let's shift gears. All right, guys, we're going to talk about systems now. And what I did, I broke down the top 10 systems that I think that in terms of the research that I've done, men that I spoke to, and things that I've actually tried out on myself. And they have helped me immensely in turning and changing my into newer habits and routines. So we're going to talk a little bit about systems right now and what that really means in terms of achieving your goals, which we just talked about. Now, let's break these down so that way you can use these systems so that way they become useful for you, especially if you're getting unstuck in your life. So let's take a look at these one at a time here. The first one here is about habit stacking. And really, the intent of habit stacking is that you really want to tie a new habit to an existing one so that it flows natural in your daily life. Now, here's an example. Let's say after brewing your morning coffee, which I love, do 5 minutes of journaling on what you need to do today. You can take that time while you drink your coffee and record about how you're feeling about those 3 things. Or before you even go to bed, brush your teeth and then read a chapter of a book that you're using to help yourself or even calm yourself down from the whole day. It's basically 2 for the price of 1, so to speak. So think about it in that way. Always stack your positive habits together, especially ones that you're thinking about changing. Make sure to minimize distractions by holding yourself accountable. The agency of getting your routines done so that they continue to build so you can be patient enough to see the results. The second one is really around environment design. And I kind of think about the fancy word of environment design. Really, at the end of the day, it's about organizing, like arrange your space so that way you continue to make good habits easier. Like setting out your workout clothes the night before, making your lunch the night before, having a clean your clean workout clothes in a gym bag waiting for you by the door or already in your car. Basically, or you can create a dedicated workspace in your home. Trying to think about how to make your habits or your new habits work for you in the simplest and easiest way possible. Remember not to doubt yourself while you're building these new systems and environments. I know you may think that it may be a bit weird, but your environment reflects how you process your life and your routines. If your environment is in chaos or it's disorganized, so will it also be harder for you to create the systems you need to be repeatable and predictable. Poor systems will put you back in your old routines. So avoid that as it wastes a lot of time, which is your most valuable asset. Trust me, I've made, and many men have made mistakes in this area. So learn from them. Third is really around identity based. And this was a little bit confusing for me in the beginning. It took some time to practice on this one, but you really need to think about the type of person you want to be, not just the outcomes of it. Like, you don't want to say, hey, I want to be someone who's rich or someone who goes to the gym regularly. Instead, you would reframe your identity by saying something more like, I'm someone who prioritizes my finances and saves for my future. And, or, you could also say, I'm a person who prioritizes my health to have the best future I can deliver for myself. It really encapsulates your identity in a better way versus being outcome based. It's important to set realistic systems here. You're not going to be a millionaire overnight, and you're not going to win any bodybuilding competitions neither. The systems that cultivate those results are time tested through consistent actions, supportive habits. All right, the fourth system that we're going to be looking at is really around tracking and reflecting. And that simply is just tracking your habits, right? And how successful or not that they were. Weekly reviews help. I would recommend getting into the habit of reflecting on them daily. In the evening, you could list the top 3 things that you did, and think about what went well, what didn't, what did you learn, and what you will do better. Just start and log ideas for you to kind of look back at whether it's weekly or monthly, if a more in-depth plan is needed. And I think that's important to show that you can adapt, such as how you are saving towards your goal or a diet or an exercise routine. Is it working for you or not? It's okay to have to take a step back to take 2 steps forward. So restarting is okay. Sometimes in life, even standing still is progress, right? It means that you're not falling back. So maintaining your routines, your habits, your systems are all very important, even if it means you have to restart. So in simple terms, track weekly goals, like your workouts, reflect on what's working. And what I typically do is I use Sundays for that. All right, the 5th system is really around small steps. Small wins stack quickly. You take a larger goal and you break it down into tiny achievable actions to build momentum. For example, if you want to be healthier, lose weight, and build muscle, you can start with a simple morning routine of drinking water first, breaking that down, and you'll eat in the day, in the morning, to manage your caloric intake. You can do a simple walk. You could go to the gym. You could even go to the gym every other day for 30 minutes. Just take these things in smaller steps so that way you don't get overwhelmed by it, and that will transform yourself over time. It's really important here to not try and do too much and take on every aspect of your life. Like, pick a couple of things, get them done. Pick another one, and keep going. Now, let's kind of think about the 6th system is really about reinforcement. If it helps, you can recognize yourself and celebrate those small wins to reinforce your consistency and motivation. So for example, let's say you were sticking to a habit about after a week, you can take yourself out to some place meaningful, such as a fun activity or a movie, or go golfing, go-karting, a small getaway, a day trip, a new book. Like, simple rewards shows you the self-acknowledgement and the power you have over your own life. So these things count, and they really don't need to come from anywhere or anyone other than yourself. Even think of that table for one mindset. Go ahead and treat yourself out, take yourself out if you want to, and that's fine. Like, don't minimize your effort here as if you were, cheering someone else on. Do the same thing for yourself. Take care of yourself. Now, the 7th one is really around support. We've talked about support goals. Now it's about a system. You don't need to have an army around you, but having a few close friends or family members is important to feel that sense of community with people that encourage your new habits. I do understand the value of this, especially in hard times. We do need other people. Just make sure that you are equally there for others in need of your support also. Now, the one thing about support that I ask is that don't overly isolate. Stoicism is great for self reflection, and solitude can help build and calm your mind. But if you are in a place where you are sad, lonely, and not at peace, isolation and solitude can actually work against you. So be aware and be aware of these feelings and build a support system in its place. Now, eighth, think about triggers. And I mean cues and triggers in a positive sense. These are reminders, or they could be a prompt mechanism of a behavior that you want. What this means is that you should be thinking about not relying on your own memory of all the things that you need to do, but maybe you build in a calendar of set times for new habits and routines. For example, you can set a phone reminder for going to the gym. That's what I do. But then hopefully that becomes muscle memory and that you know when to go. You could have a morning routine of water, drinking water, having a protein-rich breakfast, taking your vitamins, cleaning your home, doing laundry, calling your kids or friends. You get the point. I think that for me personally, having a calendar that I can visually see, even having the full year calendar, can actually help you plan. And not only that, help you plan, but it helps to trigger a mindset of always looking in the morning or during the day. So that way you don't forget the things that are coming up. That's going to require some time investment. And it also allows you to reflect on the previous day's accomplishments. So that way you can get back to the work that you need to get done. Number 9 is habit substitution. I never really thought about this one, and it has really helped me a lot in terms of my life and bringing in new habits, especially when it comes to replacing old habits or unhelpful ones with better alternatives. Sometimes it's really hard to kind of get rid of a habit, right? It's like going to the gym at the start of a new year. You introduce this new habit that's supposed to stand on its own. But meanwhile, you might be going to grab yourself a pizza, or you might be like, maybe you're not consistent with going to the gym because you have other habits that exist alongside this new one. So trying to substitute an old habit for a new one is often a better route to cultivate a new behavior. So that's important, and hopefully you spend some time thinking about how you can best substitute those habits. From 1 to 9, I really got to tell you, it's about rinse and repeat, guys. Sometimes all it takes is for you to show up, get there, put your headphones on, listen to good music. I always feel better after that. And I remind myself, when I go to the gym and I do the things that I want to do, even though that day I may not even want to go there, I remind myself that I always feel better after going to the gym, even if I don't want to go, right? So that way, that habit substitution, it's about how do I reflect on that habit also. Now, this last one is an important one, and I save one of the best ones for the end. It's really around patience and adjustment. What I want you to know that everything that we've talked about, even on Project Rebuilding the Man, this shit is not going to happen overnight. None of it. During your rebuilding, meaning you are going to have to learn patience as one of our tools from the Forge, right? These are tools that it will carry you, but your patience also has to get stronger through your own life changes. And as you encounter and deal with other people and situations in your life, patience needs to be your ally. If nothing else, patience should become your friend. Don't confuse patience also with tolerance, though, right? Not having defined boundaries. Meaning patience is something that you exercise daily to reinforce the peace you need to thrive and execute your plan in rebuilding you. If others or situations come up and come into conflict with you, then you know that it's not about your patience, it's about your boundaries and what you are allowing to come into your life that is upsetting your peace, and willful patience needs to be set with boundaries, not always necessarily with patience. So let's make sure you understand the difference between the two. All right, that's going to wrap up here for systems. Now we're just going to talk a little bit about reflections and bitterness, and then we're going to wrap up this video. Right. All right, guys. Our last section is about reflection, but even more important, the elimination of bitterness. The more you reflect and adapt and adjust, the higher chance you will live in peace and joy, because you will focus on what you can control. Whereas people who are deep in bitterness, they feel like life did them dirty, right? Like it was out of their control, or that they were taken advantage of, etc., 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 right? Something or someone else is needed to be blamed. If that's you, get out of this by doing reflection exercises each day, the same way you would want to exercise your body. So do that with your mind to your daily actions, right? Just tie them together. So the first one is really setting daily check-ins. Ask yourself each evening, what did I do today that was aligned with my values? We talked about that earlier in terms of our values and our goals. What worked? What didn't work? What did I have control over? What didn't I? For example, if you want to build, improve family bonds, it's a value of yours, reflect on how you treated them. Or did you create an environment for them to be themselves, the people that you want in your life? Did you to share or encourage open discussions? Did you create a fun environment, or even a serious one, to have good, honest conversations? Showing your leadership and taking initiative shows others how important they are to you. In this scenario, did it turn out the way that you planned? Did it go in a different way than you expected? Is there something you can do different next time to have an even better or a different experience? The second is really about noticing patterns. And I put in here, be a pattern recognition expert, right? And that is to think about things that you start, stop, and continue, right? Identify that habit to start. Identify a habit where you would stop or even continue each week. For example, you could start a gratitude journal, or you could continue your morning walk, or you can stop negative self-talk. It is a simple exercise, but it can be used almost in any situation that you are assessing behavior, actions, and impact versus your actual intent, right? Really understanding what you intended to do versus your actual impact can sometimes be different. Like, for instance, you may have intended to work cooperatively with someone, but that was your intention, but maybe through communications or a lack thereof, that collaboration did not work out very well. So evaluating your intent versus the impact is also very helpful when you think about pattern recognition, because maybe it's a pattern of yours or a hidden pattern that you realize that should or should not have a place in your life. Now, the third one might be sound a little bit strange, but practicing visioning is really important also. That could be as simple as writing a statement or a letter to yourself, or just practicing visualization. It's really about seeing where you want to be as if you're already there. Just to kind of put it, put your goals or something somewhere that's visible, that you can see it, helps you to visualize your goals daily, and trying to achieve and work towards that. Athletes practice visualization. They visualize themselves taking that shot, making the movement of their body, the execution of their practice behavior. And once that's done, they go do it. Because visioning your truth is really what you want to accomplish here. It's a powerful tool for you to actually create that success, because your mind doesn't really know if it's actually real or not. But by visualizing it over and over again, it's like practicing it. Now, fourth is review your values. You could review it weekly, and ask if your actions match your values. We talked about that. I can't emphasize that enough about how important, it is that you operate in alignment with your values. So that way it becomes your core foundation that you can check weekly, if you're on track, or if you should even upgrade them, right? Think about some of your values as maybe they're good for a time, and maybe now you're in a different part of your life where now you need to level them up. So that reflection really does help from time to time. Now, the last one here, which is what we're going to conclude with, is really around lessons learned. After any setback, ask, what did I learn? And how can I adjust? Was it me that needs to adjust? Or am I in the wrong situation for what I want in my life? Setbacks usually set the stage for you to spend some time on reflecting on what you did or didn't do, and how did that contribute towards your setback. There's a lot of power here, guys, so make sure you spend the time thinking about your lessons learned, especially in setback situations. For example, if a routine slipped, reflect on what triggered it and tweak the system to support you better the next time. Go back and think about the habits and routines we talked about and adjust them as a blacksmith would in the forge, right? You adjust your position, you adjust your hammering style. Think about the impurities that you no longer want in there, right? Kind of think about what you need to do to build a better version of yourself. I want you to know that all of this took time. First and foremost, it was the beginning of the transformation for myself and for many other men. I made so many mistakes with all of this, and that's how this all came to be. To show you how to not make the mistakes I made that cost me a lot of precious time. Now, and for anyone out there that this story speaks to you, it will be the same for you if you allow it. Just like you and what you're going through, there is a through that you must be willing to endure, and to not take any shortcuts, as it will only cost you more time and energy. But learn from others. But certainly do your best to learn from others in a way that helps you, moves you forward. So pay attention to what you pay attention to. And that's why this channel is here for you. So I'm going to wrap this episode with one key thing here, is that oftentimes we cannot see the end of a beginning, nor can we see the beginning of an end. So I want you to realize that this is not a weakness, is that this is life. It is about having the faith in yourself and belief that you will be able to handle all things, because you are capable, because you have proven to yourself that you can. So please join me in the next video of Project Rebuilding the Man, where we're going to dive into relationships in our lives and how to approach them purposefully as a newer, rebuilt, and stronger you. This will definitely be a good one, I can tell you that. Lessons learned from men that I have interviewed and obtained the life experiences from them and also myself. So until next time, guys, take care of yourself. You matter. You will rise. You will shine. And you will be proud of yourself, because you are the architect of your life. You will rebuild and become the strongest version of yourself you never thought possible. So keep turning that pain into power, and I will see you next time.
Hey, are you listening to me? If you haven't, then you ought to be. I'm here to get this point across. I'll tell you why. It's just because I'm gonna break through to you. It's when the signs are all pointing true.